Good morning. So today I want to talk about something that's been a little bit nerve-wracking, but also kind of exciting, which is my 2-year plan of becoming a full-time author. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's talk. I feel like the first thing we need to talk about is, what is the goal? Becoming a full-time author, it's not a SMART goal. If you know a goal setting system, right? It's essentially a very abstract goal because being a full-time author can mean a lot of things for different people. This is what it means for me. My goal is to become a full-time author making $10,000 every month from royalties. And this money has to come from book royalties alone. This does not include ghostwriting, editing, freelance writing, any sort of Patreon, YouTube, whatever. This is a goal for book royalties. Whether that's through Amazon, through Ingram Sparks, through special editions, Kickstarters, whatever, it doesn't matter. First things first, let me give you a little bit of a background about me and my journey so far. Let me get a little bit more comfortable, I feel like, for this conversation. So I published my first book in December 2022. For the next 2 years, I published 3 more books. All of them have been pretty unsuccessful, I would say. I have a video on the full author journey if you're curious to learn more. I won't rehash all the details here because that's not the point of this video. However, after the last unsuccessful launch, I kind of had this epiphany where I realized that if I'm going to make this my full-time job, first of all, I need to really put my ego aside and I need to stop being delusional and hope for virality, that the next book is going to be the viral one, that the next TikTok video is going to be viral one. And essentially, I need to learn 2 things. So the first thing I needed to learn was how to write actually good book. By that point, I've already written, I think, like 5 books maybe. By the point I sat down and decided I need to learn how to write a good book. I read the craft books and everything. However, I felt like there was still a part of me missing. And I am an avid reader myself. I am actually a writer in my day job. Like, for fuck's sake, I wrote my first book when I was 12. My first 3 books, I just typed them out in one summer. That's crazy, right? So definitely I was familiar with writing. However, writing a book that sells, I realized, has to have a certain formula. I emerged on a journey of figuring out, how do I write a book that fucking sells? So I needed a project, right, to work on that's gonna make me a better writer. So instead of actually writing a new project completely from scratch, I turned to the second book I've written in English called Blood Queen. I intended to publish that book traditionally, actually. That was back in the day when I was still thinking about getting an agent. But I picked it up and I was like, you know what? Let me revise it and let this project be the one that will teach me how to be a better writer. And as I revised that project, I found beta readers because I was like, you need feedback. You cannot do this alone because you need to know what's happening in readers' mind as they read the books. And I submitted finished revised Blood Queen to the beta readers. It took me 6 months to revise that book, okay? And I felt like it was in a much better place. And my beta reader feedback was, it's a mid book. It's like 3-star read. And I was like, this is not gonna cut it. So I realized I need more. How can I make this from a mid 3-star read to a fucking 5-star or at least 4-star read? I turned to the greats, to people who have done it before me, who have done it in an indie space because they already know what to do. I picked up a very popular book called 7-Figure Fiction and I read the book and it was great, but it was not enough. I actually bought the course by that same author and I took her Butter Writer course that essentially goes through her whole strategy of how to write books that people love to read and cannot resist. Like, I studied the course. I took every single lesson. I did every single workbook, exercise. Okay, I really took this to heart. And as I took the course, I essentially outlined my latest release, Vicious Princess. Here's the truth though. Writing a good book that people love is only half the battle as an indie author. Second part of the equation is actually selling that book and knowing how to market it correctly. The second thing I need you to learn is how to market efficiently. The marketing tactics I've tried for the past books have not worked super well for me, okay? I wanted the vanity of traditionally published marketing tactics, such as trade reviews, right? I wanted my book to be in Barnes & Nobles and other places and be available in the libraries. So I did a lot of things that were not necessary, that were not driving sales, that just looked good on paper. So I had to research what sort of marketing drives sales for indie authors. And that is something that I'm still figuring it out, because here's the thing. Right now, we're in the middle of my 2-year plan. So I'm not filming this at the very start of my journey. I'm filming this in the middle of my journey. A year has passed. We're currently in October 2025. And I sat down to create this 2-year plan last September. I nailed the first part. I'm still figuring out the second part. Let's sit down and take a look at my Notion page and debrief on what I have done so far and what I still have to do, because technically I only have a year to make this happen. So let me invite you to a very private and very intimate space, which is my Notion. In my Notion page, you can see here, I set myself a timeline, and as I said, we are currently midway through that. And this is essentially how my first year was supposed to look like. From last year, September, when I first sat down and drafted this plan, up until this September, I put together a revision plan that outlined what sort of projects I need to work on during what months to make my goals a reality, right? On the left side, you see the revision plan. On the right side, you see the actual revision plan, because as you know, plans never go the way we always want them to go, because things happen, shit hits the fan. My ideal goal was by this point to already start working on the 4th book, so I'm really ahead of the schedule. However, that couldn't happen, and currently I just finished drafting the 3rd version of Blood Queen that is currently with my beta readers. And I am going to start working on drafting the 3rd book in a couple of weeks. We're a little bit behind schedule, however, it's not too bad. And I always try to tell myself, the key is progress and consistency over perfection. Here you can see actually what business objectives and goals I set to myself for that first year. And obviously all of them have been achieved, as we talked, because I wanted to hone my craft and learn how to write a fucking good book, which I think I have learned based on the feedback on Vicious Princess that I received. I also wanted to learn indie book marketing, which is ongoing process still. And then obviously I had one goal of preparing for the new release, which is Vicious Princess, which was the first book in a series. And I have managed to do that, and it's out, and it's by far the most successful release I've had. So now we come to the 2nd year, because this is where we are, and this is where things get spicy, I feel like. You see the release plan on the left, which is essentially the cadence of how often I want to release the series that I hope is gonna make me 10K a month, fingers crossed. And on the right, you can actually see the drafting plan, which means what months are occupied with what book. I'm a plotter through and through, okay? I use tools. I know every single beat that goes, because I need to know where I'm going before I fucking go there, okay? I do not go with the flow unless I know where that flow is going, what time, which direction, why we're going, how we're going, and all that jazz. So now the question is, what are the business objectives, goals for this upcoming year? Because we have a lot. So the first one is obviously marketing related, which is I want to create an effective marketing flywheel. Fuck marketing funnels, okay? The flywheel is the way to go. I need to create a system where one action feeds into another, and it kind of creates this ecosystem where with very minimal effort I can bring in more people into my flywheel, and then there's an ecosystem that nurtures the readers, and then kind of we just go in circle. The next goal in next year obviously is to release the full series, and I feel like that's on track, so we can definitely do that. Also, I added this as a goal, but prepare for re-release of Masters of Blood. I really would love to have it done, so we have a new book coming out immediately after, the series conclude. And Masters of Blood, the concept and premise has been tested, and I know it's successful. It just needs to be right, it needs to be better, and it needs to be marketed much more, because I did very little marketing when I first released it. Then I do want to submit to book boxes, but that's more of a vanity goal, and I only will do that if I see that Vicious Princess continues to be successful. I do want to earn back the money I put into releasing the series in this next year. It's a lot of money. I'm funding it all myself from my salary. I would love, it would be like a dream once all 4 books are out, to plan a Kickstarter for the special edition hardback for the whole series. I will see if that's gonna happen. I also would like to focus on foreign editions. Since I sold audio rights to Podium, I kind of been thinking about foreign editions as well. I know a lot of indie authors do that themselves. However, I don't think I want to do that. I would much rather outsource that and find an agent and let them sell the rights, because I have a full-time job, I have freelance clients on the side. I feel like adding foreign editions and translations and working on all that is just like a lot, and it would be much easier for me to just like get it outsourced through the agent. What are the royalties? Well, currently we are at $80 a day. 55 of that is marketing, so whatever is left, you do the math, is profit. It's a small profit, but I'm kind of like not fussed about it being small right now. I'm just concerned about like creating sustainable, maintainable marketing flow that allows me to maintain this and then build on that. So I feel like this is a pretty good base, and I want to keep it as is until the end of this year. Now, once the book 2 comes out, I would like to add on it. So I would like to increase the royalties then to $120 a day. Once the 3rd book is out, I would like to add another $40. Hopefully the read-through, it's going to be good. So for book 3, I would like to have $160 a day. And then for book 4, you probably see a double jump, but this is my unrealistic goal, okay? Let me be delusional, okay? So here we are. Honestly, the thing that haunts me is the question, how possible is this goal? How possible it is to become a full-time author in 2 years? How possible is it to make $10,000 a month from book royalties from one series alone? If you look at how much money on average indie authors make, or even traditionally published authors make, the answer to these questions would be very impossible. That's the reality of things. However, despite the odds and everything, I am Delulu. Guys, you don't even understand how fucking Delulu I am, okay? Like another level of like Queen of Delulu. Like if Delulu was in a dictionary, my face would be right next to it as an example, okay? So I do believe that it could be possible. If the star aligns, if I executed well, if I'm consistent, because consistency is key at the end of the day. You have to show up every single day, no matter how you feel. But really, that's all I can say. I can say that I think it's possible if the stars align. And I think it's possible because I'm Delulu enough. And at least I want to give it a go. Even if we don't get to $10,000 fucking dollars a month in royalties by next September, I believe we can at least get to 5K, if not 5K, 3K, and 3K a month from 4 books. That's already a great start. That's already something that we can build on. So that's my 2-year full-time author plan. I am very invested in it, and I'm very excited to do updates and bring you along on this journey. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.